Spiritual Insurgency. I'm Jason Lupo, sitting here with my co-host for the day, Aaron Lujan.
How you there?
And just a guy, Jim Miller.
Hello, hello.
Well, President Trump hard at work. Trump unveils new UK trade deal, calls it an incredible day for America. This is an article from Greg Norman out of Fox Business. President Donald Trump announced a new trade deal with the UK, calling Thursday an incredible day for America. Trump told reporters at the White House that today's agreement with the UK is the first in a series of agreements on trade that my administration has been negotiating over the past 4 weeks. With this deal, the UK joins the United States in affirming that reciprocity and fairness is an essential and vital principle of international trade. The deal includes billions of dollars of increased market access for American exports, especially in agriculture, dramatically increasing access for American beef, ethanol, and virtually all of the products produced by our great farmers, Trump said. They'll also be fast-tracking American goods through their customs process, so our exports go to a very, very quick form of approval, the president added, noting that the final details are being written up in the coming weeks. In a post on Truth Social, Trump declared today is an incredible day for America as we deliver our first fair, open, and reciprocal trade deal, something our past presidents never cared about. Together with our strong ally, the United Kingdom, we have reached the first historic trade deal since Liberation Day. Trump also said as part of this deal, America will raise $6 billion in external revenue from 10% tariffs, $5 billion in new export opportunities for our great ranchers, farmers, and producers, and enhance the national security of both the U.S. and the U.K. through the creation of an aluminum and steel trading zone and a secure pharmaceutical supply chain. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer phoned into the White House while Trump was announcing the pact, calling it a real important deal that is going to boost trade between and across our countries, protect and create jobs, and open market access. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick also revealed Thursday that the UK is buying $10 billion worth of Boeing planes. This is one of many trade deals that the president is presently working on. This coming the day after their tenuous exchanges with the new Canadian Prime Minister, who has basically said that their relationship with the United States, as they've known it, is over. Aaron, what are your thoughts?
I think Jim has a thought.
Oh,
Jim, what are your thoughts?
Oh, Canada. And then when you said American beef, I was just imagining people just fighting in the UK. Bunch of super redneck Americans fighting in the UK is all I was thinking of. And then when you said aluminum, I was starting to think of the aluminum naughty. I don't know why. It was just like, yes, our great pact of selling aluminum to the UK. The aluminum naughty strikes and wins again on this great, great trade deal. You know, that's all I had. I just had some hilarity mixed in with listening to you talk about the American beef.
We're going to do deals with highly respectable countries.
If I have any more American incredible days, I'm going to have no taxes by tomorrow.
I guess I don't know what the problem was before. What problem are they fixing? Was it a bad trade deal with the UK prior?
Was it higher?
100%. So essentially, all these countries were tariffing United States goods to the tune of tons of percentage points. Right. And the United States was not nearly tariffing, or in a lot of cases, did not put tariffs on any imports coming into the United States. And so basically he's asking for a reciprocal trade agreement that basically we tariff what comes into our country, you tariff what comes in from our country to your country, and vice versa. But we do it in such a way that's fair, where you're not putting a 30% or 40% tariff on our products. Meanwhile, we allow your products to come into this country as the number 2 exporter or importer in the world, an exporter in the world, we're the number 1 importer and number 2 exporter in the world, that, we're not going to get screwed in the process.
So it's like tit for tat. It's open, it's transparent. We're going to match each other's rates. It's going to be better for the exporters of the U.S., better for the UK. Is that essentially the argument?
Yeah, that is exactly the argument. And the argument really boils down to the fact that Trump wants America to be treated fair on the world scale. And we're tired of giving everybody else money. Meanwhile, the American...
We're having deals and we're not getting no deals.
Correct.
So they were charging, you said they were charging us 30%, or is that just a hypothetical?
I have to look up what exactly...
But now it's at 10? Is that what you said?
That's the current talk, is that they're looking at 10% is what's going to be tariffed in items coming in.
And what were we charging them before?
That's a good question. I'm about to find out.
Oh, right.
I'll find out.
Well, while Jason's finding finding out.
Fighting out, and with the American beef, he's going to be finding out.
I mean, we need more export markets for our farmers. We need more export markets for our ranchers. The UK is a relatively wealthy country, right? I mean, they're not Bangladesh. I think that's a great export market. So,
What the problem with Bangladesh for?
they're poor. They're super poor. It's not a good export market. There's not a lot of people buying
They can't
tri-tip.
afford that American beef.
They're not able to afford tri-tip. But Englishmen can apparently. So I'm all for that. I think if we can get a lower tariffs on our exports, that'll mean better return, more money, more profits for our American companies and our ranchers and our farmers. That's great. I guess I always go back to cutting spending when we talk about these tariff wars, because the tariff war is always contextualized in this box of, well, America's going to improve the economy. We're going to improve our economy if we fight these trade wars. Well, that's half the battle. The other half that we're not talking about is cutting government spending, 36, 37 trillion. Like, that's the elephant in the room. And that's the conversation that I wish we could have. I wish we could end the Federal Reserve. I wish that we could shrink the size of government tremendously. I wish we could abolish 80 to 90% of federal programs. I wish we would bring all of our military that are based overseas back home with their children and their wives, and the ones that need to be working need to be at the southern border, arresting illegals and defending our country. Sure, we need to rewrite the trade deals. We need to do better on the international trade markets, but that's half the conversation when you're talking about improving the economy.
When you said half the battle, it just made me think of like that G.I. Joe thing. Knowing is half the battle. I just want that with every tariff argument at the end. Every negotiation at the end, you got like Shipwreck from G.I. Joe coming out. And knowing tariffs is half the battle. It just comes out, it's all G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joe, an American hero.
Knowing tariffs is half the battle.
So,
G.I. Joe.
So this article, and I don't know how accurate it is, but we'll quote it here. For example, classification of meat or bovine animals, fresh or chilled, a so-called third country like the U.S. imports face a 12% plus 147-pound levy for every 100 kilograms of beef sold to the U.K. An average cow would yield about 225 kilograms of beef, so that would be 12%. On top of the 330-pound levy that they have. Denim jeans, an iconic U.S. export, faces an 8% import tariff.
Nobody wears jeans in the
20% VAT. UK also imposes a 10% levy on importing most types of cars. Then number one, imported goods going into the Great Britain: crude oil, gas, mechanical power generators, medicine, pharmaceuticals, refined oil. And then from Great Britain, we receive medicine, pharmaceuticals, cars, mechanical power generators, organic chemicals, scientific instruments. So this could, as we talk about the U.S. deficit and the need to reduce the U.S. deficit and doing so by cutting spending, I mean, here's a way that Trump is looking to bring in money into the United States without taking from the American taxpayer.
Yeah, no, I applaud it. I'm all in agreement for making the trade deals fair, bringing more money home for American manufacturers and producers, opening up markets, scaling, opening up opportunities for American corporations to scale their businesses. That's all great. It's just like I always say, it's a half-baked conversation. The reason I'm so critical is because I feel like the Trump administration has been very remiss in this conversation of government spending. Trump was very loud in 15 and 16 about how we were spending way too much money, and then he actually has increased government spending by 7% over Obama. So I don't know where the fiscal conservatives are. If you guys are there, speak up. The microphone is all yours. Where's Trump on cutting government spending?
So here's an article out of Outkick. Nearly 3 weeks since Outkick reported that evidence strongly suggested that sports apparel giant Nike funded a study on transgender youth athletes, company has remained virtually silent about its alleged role. Perhaps Nike believes that ignoring it will make it go away, but that's not the case. The public deserves answer, and pressure is mounting on Nike to come out and explain itself. To that end, NBA legend Charles Barkley appeared on Outkick's Don't At Me with Dan Dakich, and Dakich asked Barkley his thoughts on Nike in the study. While Barkley said that he wasn't aware of the study or Nike's potential role, he made his position on the general subject quite clear. I'm going to make this very simple for you, Dan. Men should not play sports against women, Barkley said, and I'm not going to get into all this BS that's going on out here in the world today. While Barkley also made it clear that he's against discrimination, especially against gay and transgender people, there's no world in which males belong in women's sports. Men should not play sports against women. If anybody thinks that, I think they're stupid, Barkley continued. I support the gay community 100%. I support the transgender community 100%, but I do not under any circumstance think that men should play sports against women. And if anybody has a problem with that, they're going to have to get over it because I'm not going to change my mind. I just think it's wrong, period.
Sin and sexual proclivities are not immutable characteristics. You cannot discriminate against people's sexual proclivities. It's like saying, "Oh, I lust after women as a heterosexual man. Therefore, you're discriminating against me for not allowing me to, engage in my lustful behavior. I want to go into the women's restroom. I want to go into the women's locker room because I identify with my sexual proclivities and motivations." Like, it's ridiculous. I'm tired of this always framing the conversation of your sin, your sexual preferences is somehow an immutable characteristic, and now all of a sudden you need legal protections, and we're throwing in the word discrimination when we push back against some of this ridiculous behavior. Homosexuality, heterosexuality, sexuality, whatever it is not protected behavior. It's not an identity. I'm not identified by my sin.
So USA Fencing was seen in a Senate congressional hearing not too long ago. Fireworks fly as USA Fencing head defends males and women's sports trans athlete policy. The head of the board of USA Fencing, a man named Damien Lefelt, was proudly and openly championed biological males competing in women's sport. And Wednesday, in a subcommittee on delivering on government efficiency, Doge Committee on Oversight and Government Reform hearing, Lefelt defended his actions and views while downplaying the threats to women and softening his prior extremism. Chairman Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene stated that the hearing played a video of President Donald Trump signing an executive order prohibiting the participation of men in women's sports, followed by a series of examples of males dominating those competitions. Greene explained that USA Fencing and other organizations are required to provide equal athletic opportunity for women, biological women, which it's now refusing to comply with thanks to its transgender competition policy. She also pointed out that the organization makes a mockery of women's fencing by allowing over 200 recognized biological males competing against women. Meanwhile, the board of USA Fencing said they would only change their policies if and only if it was forced to do so, despite being objectively unfair to allow males to compete against females. The organization is so committed to political extremism that they have to be forced. And the questioners, well, the Republican ones at least, called them out for it.
So 200 dudes fighting against the ladies. So how many are in that whole fencing league, for crying out loud?
Oh, there's probably a lot. I mean, it's been a growing sport for a long time.
I got you. I'm just saying. There's plenty of studies on this. We've seen them. There's videos on it where it'll be like 3 regular fat out of shape dudes versus like, very in shape women, and they still win 2-1 half the most of the time on like every random physical challenge of things just transpiring. I don't know. The sports stuff, dudes should compete with dudes, ladies with ladies. You know what? Want to be a trans athlete? Go make a trans league. And I don't want to hear the thing there's not enough, because you're sure acting like there's a lot of trans athletes out there. So if there's so many trans athletes out there, create your own trans league. I don't care. You don't have the NFL. You got the
NTFL. NTFL.
There you go.
The MTLB.
There you go. Fun. Do it. Run with it. I don't care. But I'm also to a point I've always wanted to see just a league, to be very frank with everybody. I've always wanted to see what are you doing? Everybody's racing everybody. I want the absolute best. So maybe that's the answer. Just make it everybody league. the E-League or something. I don't know.
They already have the gay games, and the only reason why I know that they have the gay games is because Denver won the gay games, so the gay games are going to be hosted in Denver. But now we have the gay games, so why not just stick this in with the gay games?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, well, I guess why not? I mean, they got a bunch of gay with extra steps and straight with extra steps, so yeah, I guess it just seems like another excuse to celebrate less than mediocrity and keep us distracted from real issues and real things going on. Trying to pedestal things that are really not of any relevance or importance or any significance at all as a whole, because whatever, dude, as far as I'm concerned, as a whole anyways, somebody that can play basketball or football or soccer is really baseball. It's not, they're not really important to me. They're not curing cancer, not getting us to Mars. The water's not clean. They're not solving starvation. They're not getting rid of sex trafficking. They're not defeating pedophiles or rapists. They're not making it a better world. It's all distraction stuff in my book and the way I look at it. So it's just more distraction on distraction. It's just putting a hat on a hat.
So Stephanie Turner is the fencer that took the knee and then was banned from the rest of the competition, getting a black card. She said in this hearing, this is the same report we just read from. This is another article from Outkick from Ian Miller. And here's what she had to say. She said she spent 7,000 hours training and over 100,000 expenses in her fencing career, something that's now ruined because of the organization's absurdist policy that it's offensive to suggest that women who lose to men is a skill issue, as many defenders of trans athletes have suggested. Turner detailed that the culture of USA fencing demands silence when men compete against women, that she felt isolated and strangled by LaFelt's organization.
I think this whole issue of trans athletes, or the fact that we're even using this word transgender, is going to self-destruct. I think that the Kingdom of Darkness, aka the American progressive left, has overplayed their hand by pushing this agenda. And this is seen in just the everyday bureaucratic headaches that this creates. Like recently I saw a video that went viral of a biological male alleging to be trans, demanding that he go into the women's restroom. He went in there, the women naturally freaked out, and they went to the front desk and was like, why are you letting this biological man in there? So they kicked him out. And then he, of course, this was in Los Angeles, he started to complain, started to make a scene at the front. And the gym took the position of, bro, our policy is just going to simplify this matter. Biological men go into the men's locker room. Biological females go into the female locker room. We're not going to play this game of 32 genders and the transgender ideology, because it's actually just very confusing and very inconvenient. And it opens up a lot of private businesses for litigation.
I agree with you. I have a solution. You need gender affirmation? You just come see me. I'll kick you in the crotch. We'll find out real quick which locker room you're going to.
The Jim Miller test.
Done. Solved. I just simplified it. It's free.
And now you're going on.
Hey, you wanted to be affirmed. You showed up of your own volition. It's fine. I got you. I'll just kick you in the crotch. We'll get the gender affirmation just done, finished. We know which locker room you're going to with the reaction we get.
But what if he
solved it?
But what if he's a post-op eunuch?
Huh?
What if he's a post-op eunuch?
Yeah, you get 2 kicks.
So there's a lot of conversation about women in men's sports, but the entire media industry is silent on men playing or women playing in men's sports.
Have you seen that South Park with the whole thing? You know, it turns out they're like, have you met Heather Swanson? And everybody's all proud. It's the women's like Olympics or something. Oh, it's great. You know, great coming out. No, have you? The announcer guy's like, have you met Heather Swanson? Comes out, it's Macho Man Randy Savage. Is it true you just transitioned a week ago? I'm not here to talk about my transition.
Oh yeah.
And it just pummel them all, and they're like, oh my God, yeah.
Snap to a Slim Jim.
Yeah, Heather Swanson. And then the lady that was like always like the big, like trained all the time to win and all this.
Listen here,
she's like, oh my God. And there was like it was like a whole marathon of events, boxing and running and climbing and I think fencing and all kinds of, it was just a whole thing, but you got to see it. It's just, is it true you transitioned a week ago? I'm not here to discuss my transition. Good luck to you, Heather Swanson, she says, and he's Lux for dudes, and it goes out and just
maybe we could find that clip and put it in right after this break. But I really want to talk about this because I think it's actually important, and I I'm saying this because I literally just saw it, but women, biological women, transitioning into men playing in men's sports, and it's not as easy to attack from the perspective of like scientifically, which has been the big scientific kind of push towards no women and or no men in women's sports. But at the same time, like men deserve their own athletic competitions where they don't have to worry about whether or not they're going to offend somebody, or they can play rough, or they don't have to tune down
Well, I have a
what they're doing.
I have a personal. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So, I mean, I'm just looking at the perspective of when female wrestling was on the rise and it hadn't gotten there yet, there were still some female wrestlers that were competing in the boys wrestling, which was totally legal. They didn't have a place for them to go. But now women's wrestling is on the rise, and a lot of states now have women's wrestling, so that's not a big deal as much anymore.
Mine's quick. This is pretty easy. This is kind of like that thing when they look at it and they're like, "Oh, it's super gross that some male teacher was sleeping with a young girl at school." Oh, whoa, that boy, his lady teacher was sleeping with him. What a champion. You know what I mean? It's the kind of algorithm of that kind of stuff. That's how I always kind of see it. They go, "Oh, well, we can't say much about the chicks coming in with the guys and stuff."
Well, to your point, I don't hear a lot about women wanting to participate in men's sports as much as men. I don't hear as much about men wanting to participate in women's sports as the reverse is true.
You said it opposite.
I said it
Yeah,
opposite.
you said it backwards.
So you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
The ladies wanting to be in the guys' sports.
Is that a media thing or is that reality, in your opinion?
I don't know. All I know is I saw it for the first time at a swim meet, and it caught me off guard, and I was like, why is there a kid in a women's swimsuit at a high school boys meet? And you look at it and you're like, look, like these boys still deserve the ability to have their own space too.
Is it because, and this is just something I've heard, so I don't know. I mean, you'll have to check on the old beep bop boop box over there in the interwebs to see, but isn't it? I've heard that most of the women that transition to be dudes, the ladies, they're like, "Oh, I want to transform to a guy." They turn out being like extremely like suicidal and find out how difficult it is being a guy and stuff. Is that true? Is that part of
the case? That's the case both ways. In fact, we have not seen a mental illness improvement since we've done all of these transitionings. We've seen the opposite. We've seen suicide rate in these populations increase after transition rather than decrease. And that's documented facts. I mean, we're not making this up. This isn't conspiracy. Like, this did not solve the mental health crisis with these individuals. In fact, in a lot of cases, it made it worse.
Well, I had to wrestle a girl in high school. I was a high school wrestler, and I had to wrestle a girl, and I can speak to this. I held back. I was self-conscious. I did not engage in the competitive nature that I would have normally engaged in had I been wrestling a guy, because I didn't want to be seen as a wife beater in front of half the high school,
or probably a groper,
or a pervert or something. Like, it just,
you win.
Well, of course.
Well, I was just checking.
I was your.
I want to know how much you were holding back. I mean, were you?
Well, so here's the funny part. She got penalized, and I'm trying to remember. Did she pull my hair or bite me? But she did something that wrestlers never do, and she was warned during the match. Like, it was just the most bizarre thing. And so women
Hit you with a chair.
Women should not be in men's sports because it takes away from the opportunity for boys and men to be their best.
Okay.
Yeah, well, and there's, and especially in wrestling, right? Hands are everywhere. There's you have to be comfortable enough to actually participate in the sport.
Hands are,
Yeah.
And so the last thing you want is, all of a sudden some girl that thinks that she's a guy throwing her hand up your crotch. It would be very uncomfortable for, I think, most high school boys to be in that experience.
Absolutely.
And I don't think that's right to put the boys in that experience.
Especially if they're wearing a singlet, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Things are everywhere. They're pretty much exposed.
Yeah.
Silky.
Very silky. My least favorite part of wrestling, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, we're going to take a brief time out. When we come back, we're going to continue this conversation. A conversation about whether or not YouTube is pushing negative emotions. So don't go anywhere. Hang with us. We'll be right back.
Ooh.
Welcome back to Spiritual Insurgency. Hope you enjoyed that short little clip from South Park, just giving us all of the culture breakdown well before it happens. I mean, it's like they predict the future like The Simpsons. Wouldn't you say, Aaron?
It's called predictive programming. So there's this idea that the popular culture, the media titans of our age, are Masonic, religious type people where they follow this ethic that they need to tell us what they're going to do before they do it. I'm not a Satanist. I'm not in the occult. So I'm just the messenger. So I understand that when people share this information with the public, the messenger is usually shot in the process because it sounds so ridiculous. And, you know, we're labeled the CIA term conspiracy theorists. But the reality is that we've seen this in 9/11. So there's been so many instances throughout popular culture, album covers, book covers, uh, uh, official government documents, think tank documents, all sort of predicting the collapse of the Twin Towers. And so whether or not that is all coincidence, whether or not that's all paranoid conspiracy theory, or whether it's a observation of what's actually taking place, I think that predictive programming is real. I mean, The Simpsons especially. My wife, who is the type of personality where she's just like, I won't believe it till I see it. She's a typical Thomas type personality, is blown away by all of the events that were predicted in The Simpsons. So I definitely think we need to look at South Park as a serious study in anthropology.
Yeah, it's definitely it's quite intriguing. But you know, in terms of what we're being fed by YouTube and by social media, there's an interesting article. This was published on January 25th of 2025 out of the University of Iowa. Hussam Habib and Rishab Nithyanand.
I love those guys.
I was actually going to name my son that.
Yeah. Article is titled YouTube Recommendations Reinforce Negative Emotions, Auditing Algorithmic Bias with Emotionally Agent Sock Puppets. The abstract: personalized recommendation algorithms like those on YouTube significantly shape online content consumption. These systems aim to maximize engagement by learning users' preferences and aligning content accordingly, but may unintentionally reinforce impulsive and emotional biases. Using a sock puppet audit methodology, this study examines YouTube's capacity to recognize and reinforce emotional preferences. Simulated user accounts with assigned emotional preferences navigate the platform, selecting videos that align with their assigned preferences and recording subsequent recommendations. Our findings reveal that YouTube amplifies negative emotions such as anger and grievance by increasing their prevalence and prominence in recommendations. This reinforcement intensifies over time and persists across contexts. Surprisingly, contextual recommendations often exceed personalized ones in reinforcing emotional alignment. These findings suggest that algorithm amplifies user biases, contributing to emotional filter bubbles and raising concerns about user well-being and societal impacts. The study emphasizes the need for balancing personalization with content diversity and user agency. So, is YouTube catering to a generation that is upset, that thrives on anger and negative emotion, or is YouTube creating this culture?
I think it's a vacuum, it's an echo chamber that reinforces where that person already is. So YouTube is I would argue, an arm of the industrial military complex. It's, in order to wage war, a great portion of it in the modern era has to be information. So in order for the people that want to seize power, in order for them to accomplish their end goals, they're going to have to get some level of consent from the general public. So in order for them to do that, they're using these popular media tools, YouTube being the largest and the most pervasive, to be able to get people to continue in this echo chamber that they already are. So topics like COVID-19 origins, election fraud, whatever your political bias is, it's constantly reinforced through the algorithm. So for example, if you believe that COVID was an organic disease that, you know, spread according to the original government narrative of 2020, then you're just going to continue to see videos that reinforce that, continue to see influencers that parrot those narratives constantly showing up in your feed. This creates an artificial consensus, making dissenters feel like fringe extremists when they're often just simply silenced. I mean, I see it in my own social media experience. Like, I think I'm addicted to Instagram. I don't know if this is an opportunity to confess or not, but when I'm on Instagram, I'm constantly getting content that is very similar to the stuff that I just liked. So I can see the algorithm in real time reinforcing, catering to my desires, catering to my taste, which I understand. It's a to a certain degree, it is a business tool. They're a large advertising platform. The objective of that platform is to retain as much users and increase time as much as possible, because the more time they get people stuck on these apps, the more money they make from the advertisers that are spending money on these platforms. So I understand the business sense, but I think it becomes more dangerous and more uh, evil when we talk about issues like the psychological harm that YouTube is encouraging among kids, or manufacturing trends and manufacturing certain media, amplifying certain movements to create a false understanding of the world. I think YouTube takes their power and uses it to an extreme. Some people are calling it algorithmic radicalization and extremism. So I think the American liberal is a product of the YouTube and social media algorithms. I don't think any reasonable person on their own are going to dye their hair purple and spout the views that they spout. I really think that they are just victims of algorithms.
Yeah, so in the cart before the horse context, right? Like, this article is pretty much claiming that YouTube is simply that they might be optimizing for the immediate satisfaction of the user, and that the user is looking for this these negative emotions and these feelings that they're having when they're consuming content. But did we get to this point because YouTube got us to that point? I think is kind of the understanding context of this conversation I think we're having.
Yeah, well, Sam Parker, if anybody remembers, was featured in the film Social Network, which allegedly portrays the origin of Facebook. And he was interviewed on the founding of Facebook. And this is what he had to say, because I think it's really revealing, because this is a man who was at Facebook at the Genesis. He was one of the original software developers of Facebook. And this is what he had to say. The thought process was, how do we consume as much of your time and conscious attention as possible? And that means that we need to sort of give you a little dopamine hit every once in a while because someone liked or commented on a photo or a post or whatever. And that's going to get you to contribute more content, and that's going to get you more likes and comments. So in this quote, he's essentially admitting that Facebook was engineered to be addictive, that it's manipulating users into staying on the platform longer while feeding their need for social validation. I mean, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, that teens and young 20-somethings are the most depressed than they've ever been before. I was at Great Wolf Lodge just a couple of days ago, and I'm watching this kid on his phone in front of the pool while there's dozens of kids playing. And that to me said everything that needs to be said about this current generation, that they're more interested in what's on this little screen than they are about living their natural childhood. This is the age of the social media takeover. I think we're dealing with the weaponization of technology, and I think it's wreaking havoc on our culture, man.
Yeah, 100%. Jimmy, got anything to add to that?
I don't know. It just seems like people are more enticed with the illusion of what life is supposed to be versus life. It seems to be so they don't want to be mentally present. They want to feel good about things. Plus, this newer generation, they're all about the, oh, look at the traumatic experience I had. I had to take the trash out, and you're like, what? The things they complain about are the things they should be grateful for. They have everything accessible, knowledge, information on that stupid little, smart ass phone they got. So I just think it's artificially based. It's very nonsensical. It has nothing to do with real life, work, labors, meritocracy, consequences of actual things. And like Aaron's saying, kid would prefer to be on their phone at the pool instead of swimming. And, they get all upset about their phone, but he'll put his phone at risk to fall in the pool, to be on his phone, instead of go ahead and swimming and enjoying the time he has with friends or family or whatever is going on right now at that moment. Would prefer to be in La La Land of make-believe, which is kind of ironic considering we're going to be talking about this and it's going to be on the internets and the interwebs and all this stuff.
Yeah, I think what's ended up happening, and we need to talk about this from a scientific standpoint, the dopamine is that neurotransmitter linked to motivation, pleasure, and reinforcement learning. So screens, especially social media, hijack natural dopamine pathways, providing hyperstimulating artificial rewards. So if you're a young man, you're naturally designed by your creator, by God, to be attracted to women, young women your age that are in their prime, they're beautiful, so that the natural order is that you pursue her, you marry her, and then you guys make love, have sex, have babies, because it's in your natural it's in your natural order and your natural tendency to want to do those things. You don't have to tell a naturally adjusted man with a natural amount of testosterone to be attracted to a woman. These are all natural things. So the enemy has come to kill, steal, and destroy, and he's using these lust traps, these Instagram models, these social media, what they call, I think they're calling now thirst traps, which is essentially just posts from like OnlyFans type chicks, hijacking what a young man's natural tendencies are, and it's drawing them into OnlyFans. It's drawing them into pornography, as opposed to pursuing a woman in the real world and starting a family and having a baby. That's also applied, and again, I'm going to talk as a man because I have a burden for the young men that are out there today in Gen Z. You guys have not had any chance to be who God's created you to be, because your generation has experienced an onslaught of attack that I don't think previous generations of male has ever had to withstand. And sexuality is definitely a big one, but another one is productivity. Real men in real life get dopamine hits from effort-based endeavors, from achieving things, achieving goals, conquering the enemy. That unpredictable, I think of the pioneers, the unpredictability of starting a business or working on a car or building something. We are designed to be providers. Adam was instructed in the garden to take dominion and to name the animals and to plow the land. We as men are designed to get our deepest satisfactions and our deepest identities in what we can produce. The value of a man is as good as what you can build and what you can create. No one's coming to save you. No one's going to give you any empathy. I think the call is to go and to build. And so and again, I'm speaking in general terms, nothing wrong with video games, but I think a lot of the video gaming has hijacked that young man's desire to get those dopamine hits, and it's been redirected into these simulations. Same thing with when they're on social media and they get their dopamine hits from just these, shorts and these, little bits of entertainment. That is replacing real work, real achievement in the real world. And then lastly, I the social validation versus, real connection. I think we derive real dopamine from social bonding, organic, normal paced relationships with people, laughing, hanging out. When I was a teenager, I would hang out with my buddies. We'd go to the mall, we'd walk around, we'd, have challenges. How many phone numbers can we get today? And I want to talk about that. Am I going too long? Do you guys want to interject, or can I?
No, you're good. Keep going.
One of the greatest things about growing up in the 90s, I'm 44, is before there were phones, before there was internet dating and social media, if you wanted to talk to a girl, you had to physically walk up to her, take a risk, and ask her out, ask her for her phone number. And looking back at that and reflecting that, I get nostalgic because there was so much coolness about it. Like, the nerves. Okay, that's the girl I want to talk to. And then your buddies were like, is he going to do it? So now not only do you want the girl's number, but you want to prove to the boys that you have the testicular fortitude to make it happen. And then, she comes up, and then the dynamics of her friends of like, is he going to come talk to me? Is he going to come talk to my friends? And then just getting that girl's number. And the best was when they would write it on your hand. You didn't want, I still haven't washed my hand from 1997. I don't know if you guys can see that. I'm just kidding. But
How does your wife feel about that?
she thinks it's funny. She's like, you were stupid. But there's something to be said about that classical pastime, I think, has been lost. Men can approach women without taking any risk. They just hit them up on the screen. There's no
internet
risk
dating and all that stuff.
There's zero risk.
There's no consequence.
There's no consequences.
There's no real reward. It's just very frivolous and like, oh, well, whatever. It's like chumming the waters for a shark. You throw enough blood out there, it's going to pop up, but it's on the internet.
And I think it's unnaturally inflated women's egos because they have like 78 men in their inbox. Like, Well, newsflash for the woman, he's also in
They used
every
to
other
eat
woman's
something different
inbox.
in the 90s, by the way.
Yeah. Take it.
Yeah.
Take it from a Gen X or millennial, Zennial, whatever. Yeah, it's social media. I mean,
But they've done that thing too where they were like, oh, well, it's super bad that your only value as a man is what you produce. I'm like, nah, we're supposed to be like hunters and stuff, you know. Society's not naturally organic to men anyways, honestly. We're supposed to be more grabbing meat and hunting and killing things to cook and make a fire, you know, honestly, organically, Trader Joe's style. All you organic eaters out there, weirdos.
Well, and none of this is biblical in any stretch of imagination. I mean, I look at we're sitting here in Philippians 4, starting at verse 4. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say rejoice. Let your reasonableness be known to everyone. The Lord is at hand. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything be by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving. Let your requests be made known to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. What have you learned and received and heard and seen in me? Practice these things, and the God of peace will be with you. I mean, we are sitting on social media platforms, and I know that we're about to upload this content onto a social media platform, and maybe you will find it. But we are sitting on social media platforms that are not doing any of this. They're number one, they're making us anxious about everything, and that's something that we've seen during the COVID crisis and during the ongoing international strife. I mean, the talk, consuming all that news content, is making people anxious. It's making a generation of people anxious. I mean, I had students in my youth group the other day that were seriously concerned that we were going to be in some nuclear war. I'm like, even if we are, who cares? You know, we're going to be gone or we're going to go to heaven.
In a flash of light.
Yeah. So, yeah, you're not going to know. Like, you're not going to know what happened to you. It's just going to happen.
If you got
know,
fear of the fear, you're not living in the now anyways. It's ridiculous.
But-
keep everybody scared and wound up all the time, so they're always tense and about the next what if. You know what? Life is filled with a bunch of what ifs. Why don't you just go through it and try to half enjoy it? This is coming from a very irritable, annoyed person that I do. I get wrapped up with being mad and angry pretty regular. And justly so, though. This isn't what it's supposed to be. I mean, our era, man, my era, we were promised utopia by now. Kumbaya, holding hands, everything's supposed to be good. Live your life, enjoy yourself. Don't rape, don't murder, don't steal. Be a good person. The meritocracy will take care of itself. We're all going to get along. Race, creed, ethnic group, religions, sexual orientations, nobody cares. Everybody can be neighborly and cool. What has it done? It's perpetuated the exact opposite with the modern era of this garbage and crap and constantly fight over frivolous things that don't matter. It's stupid. I am curious, though, with what'd you say? What was it dude that did the study? Ahmed something? What?
Muhammad.
Abraham Muhammad?
I'm not even going to try to pronounce it.
Anyways, I don't understand. What was the sock puppet standard?
Kermit the Frog.
It just sounded a little inappropriate and it sounded a little weird. So I was like, what's the sock puppet standard? I mean, is it just 2 sock puppets? And they go, oh, well, this sock puppet with orange on it looked better to stimulate your mind in a positive aspect versus the sock puppet that was red. I don't understand what the sock puppet standard was. So I was a little curious about that, to be honest with you. In a just friends manner, curious of the sock puppet standard.
Let me see if I can get a better definition for you here.
All right. Well, but it is, you know, Aaron was talking about going and chit-chatting with some ladies at a mall. I was like, look, this generation nowadays, they have no idea what it was like to just free will, roam around, fight with your friends, still be friends, talk to some girls, get made fun of by some other girls and their friends while you tried to chit-chat and take them on some kind of date or something. It did. It was a lot of anxiety in that, and it got you to get over things and be better in a social sense.
So, you know, our little Wikipedia here is saying a sock puppet or sock puppet account or simply sock is a false online identity used for deceptive purposes. So it's a fake account.
Okay. That's it.
That's it.
That's
all it is.
Expectations.
Well, your greater expectations is not getting you very far. So,
No, it did not.
but you know, whatever goes down, you know, that's how it works. So, What you got, Aaron?
I mean, I'm just kind of thinking about this at 30,000 feet. Like I heard recently that millennials, older millennials, Xennials, people that are born, 77, call it to like 83, 84, are the hero generation because we kind of bridge this gap between the old world order and the new world order. To give you some perspective, I think, 20 years old. I was a junior in college on September 11th, 2001. So I got to live a life pre 9/11 where I got to see what America looked like before phones and social media and YouTube and the national security threats. And now I'm living in a world post 9/11 as an adult with all these things. And there's a generation behind me that never saw any of this. And there's a generation before me that's too old and not equipped enough to be able to do anything about it. I'm talking old Xers and boomers. So as I sit here inside of time, I feel like there's an obligation for us, older millennials, Gen Xers, to really look at what's happening in the world and be that hero generation and speak truth and, be a sage to some of these younger men and women and show them the things that really matter in life and sort of.
Oh, you're 100% right. I mean, I was talking to some kids just a couple days ago, and I was like, no, we used to pump the fuel and then go in and pay because we had enough dignity to just do what you're supposed to do, obligated with just standard things in society. We had payphones, for crying out loud.
Yeah, so we're in the throes of a post-truth culture that's been completely ravaged by weaponized social media platforms. I say the solution is get outside, get into real relationships, look people in the eye, have conversations, get out in nature, take off your socks, get out under the sun, get some vitamin D, read some books, turn off the phone, and eat good food and listen to great music and have great conversations and return to the natural order that God created.
Yeah, and I think if we go back into more biblical scripture here, because I think that we can say a lot about this biblically. Titus 3:10, as for a person who stirs up division, after warning him once and then twice, have nothing more to do with him. And then we remember that 1 Corinthians 15:33, do not be deceived, bad company ruins good morals. We are what we eat is what has long been said, but
Osama bin Laden said that?
no,
What did you say?
we've long said that.
Oh,
But I think really we can put that in the context of we are what we consume, and we are consuming content that is nowhere near godly and is stirring up these emotions, stirring up division, and maybe it's time that we stop consuming some of this content.
yeah, scripture before screens was an advice that was given to me. Don't, before you jump into your phone, before you start going to the emails and before you jump into Instagram and, start getting tempted and start seeing how the world's coming to an end, open up God's word, meditate on it, sit in that silence, sit in that uncomfortable space where the flesh wants to go run off and do worldly things and the spirit wants to remain quiet and be still before a holy God. I think that practice in the morning and at night and throughout the day is going to be that counter solution to a crazy hyperactive world.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of the internet stuff, it's all artificial anyways. The real world's more, you get up, the birds is chirping and stuff. The sun's coming up. Calm down. Relax. Talk to your parents. Call your sister or something. I don't know. Just be better, you guys. This is ridiculous. The interwebs.
All right, we're going to take a brief time out. When we come back, we're going to continue this conversation. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Spiritual Insurgency. I'm Jason Lupo with my co-host today, Aaron Lujan.
Howdy.
And just a guy, Jim Miller.
Hello, hello.
Well, YouTube's not the only thing that is destroying our culture. Aaron, why don't you bring us into the next segment here?
I've been contemplating a lot about marriage and family and just natural male-female relations. For millennia, men have always pursued women for the purposes of marrying them so they could have kids. It's called family. It's called being a human being. And then fast forward, post 2009 and the iPhone and the advent of high-speed internet, it's completely disrupted natural order and natural human relations. So no longer are men approaching women in the wild like me and Jim used to do at the mall, right, Jim? Not together, but
yeah, just friends.
independently. I didn't pursue Jim at the mall.
I'm hoping not.
No. Jim's a handsome guy, but not my type. So it's just like this whole idea.
Jeebus.
this whole idea of not being able to, not, it's not that you're not able to, but there's this cultural standard now that online dating is dating. I have a single friend who's on the Bumbles, and he shows me this stuff, and it's just
These are the
crazy.
swiper people, right?
These are the swipers.
Yeah, okay. Those guys are weird.
But it's mainstream. I mean, it's how you date now.
This has made forth a new standard with stuff. I agree with you to a point with some of it, but I think a piece of this also is that you go look at it. If you do get married and then she don't like you, it's easy to get divorced, and you lose. If you're lucky, you only lose half of everything you've built and put together for a family.
Yeah, it's a big topic. We've devalued the institution of marriage. We've normalized divorce. You know, and it is related, but I wanted to discuss how online dating specifically has disrupted the natural order of human relationships. So you have in the past men who had to have courage to approach women no longer need to have courage. Women would respect men who would take chances, who would go and pursue a woman at risk. Internet dating has completely removed all of that. And by extension, it's also unnaturally inflated the egos of women, because women are being pursued without consequence or risk by men. So their DMs are flooded with requests. So now they have this inflated view of themselves. And if you don't believe me, just go on Instagram and look at some of these women. I mean, they got millions of followers. They're not contributing anything to society other than they're just lust traps. They're just taking pictures of their half naked bodies. And you have millions of men that are following them, and now they're monetizing it. Now they're on OnlyFans.
Yeah, the original was, what was it? Tila Tequila on the Facebook.
MySpace.
MySpace.
Sean Merriman's ex-girlfriend. And I was a big part of that era where I got to see, you know, back in 04, 05, the advent of social media. And I experienced how it changed things, because I was hitting up girls on MySpace. I don't know if you guys were, but it was like, oh, wow, there's no risk in approaching a girl anymore on the internet. Like I was working at scale at that point. And as cool as that it might have been short term in my early 20s, you step back 20 years later at 30,000 feet, and you see a society that is just completely screwed up. They don't know what's up or down. And then, you know, I think pornography by extension is another end of that. Men don't need to put a ring on it, don't need to pursue women at all, because they have this digital counterfeit option of pornography. And so it's taken away a lot of the incentives and desires of men to even pursue women, to the point now where I'm hearing in the greater culture, women are like, where are all the men? Where are all the real men? Why can't, you know, alpha male, confident men come forth and pursue me? It's like there's even a phenomenon now of women pursuing men, which is completely out of order.
So the thing that was supposed to connect everybody's actually divided, like pulled everybody apart from the natural order of society, is what you're saying, and the family dynamics?
Yeah, the natural order of courting and relationships have been completely perverted by the weaponization of technology. It's the death of natural courtship. And there's social consequences.
Do you remember having to ask like dads for permission to like we're the last era where cars attracted women. We're the last era where like having some gusto meant something. We're the last era of asking fathers to date daughters, for crying out loud. Like that was quite an arduous advance, and you were terrified because these are a lot of hardened old men from a era harder than ours.
We were the last era that had to call up a girl on the house phone and hear a man answer the phone. Oh, hello, Mr. Johnson. Can I speak with Lisa, please?
May I ask who's calling?
May I ask who's calling? Oh, my name's Aaron. Well, what is this about? Okay, well, hold on. Let me see if she's available. That was like an eternity in time.
Yeah.
An eternity.
Time limits for going out to movies. There's something to eat and everything. And they'd escort us.
Yeah.
They'd be the ride.
I got chills, folks.
Yeah, so I think to kind of sum up this last bit of this this show that we have today, I mean, we have to be careful what content we're consuming, and we see that, you know, YouTube appears to be pushing through their algorithm negative content that spurs on negative emotions, that continues our culture where it's heading. And YouTube's not the only one. I mean, Disney's doing it, Nickelodeon, like all of these different places that produce kids' cartoons are leading to this, and then we continue to consume that type of content. as we grow up into teenhood and adulthood. And us adults in this country, we've been now convinced that we need to consume this type of content, whether it be pornographic or just in terms of divisive nature of media. So I want to explore this topic more. I think it'll be a conversation that we can continue, especially when we talk about the porn in the United States and the issues that we have, that P word. But thanks for joining us. This is Spiritual Insurgency. Join us. Find us on Rumble or YouTube. Subscribe. Follow us. We have daily content coming on every single day. So you don't have to wait till Saturday just to hear us anymore. So anyways, find us. God bless.
Peace.
Want it better, be better.